How you doing, guys? This is Eric from RuleTheWasteland.com. A lot of you guys may have been seeing articles or headlines on the news about Hillary Clinton and specifically her email scandal and the FBI charges and the fact that the FBI came out and recommended no charges. And some of you may be following this quite closely, you know exactly what's going on, but some of you may also have just heard little snippets here and there and not know exactly what the issue is, what the big deal is, or what the sort of timeline of events is for this scandal. So I'm going to go over just the very basics of this story and how it could affect the political scene going forward, what it means for our country and things like that, just to give you guys a brief kind of consolidated view of what the whole situation is so you can know what's going on if you haven't been following the news as closely as some of us. So the basic situation is Hillary Clinton, working as Secretary of State for the Obama administration, in the course of doing her job, she created an email system. Instead of using the one that was provided to her by the government, she created her own email system, and her reason was she wanted the privacy. She didn't want to have her personal emails be able to be on a government server. Now, obviously this seems pretty ridiculous to most of us out there who have ever used emails and ever have, you know, all your emails are there on the servers. It's pretty obvious that to most people with a brain that the reason she would not want someone to have access to the records of her emails is not because she's talking about her daughter's wedding or personal information like that, because in the event of Freedom of Information Act requests or investigations, that stuff would be redacted anyway if it was not related, and if it was related, then it's obviously problematic for it to have been removed. So it's pretty clear for anyone, it's pretty obvious that the most likely reason why anyone would do this, Hillary Clinton or otherwise, is to be able to have control over what could be turned over and what couldn't be, what could be destroyed, what could be hidden, what could be not hidden, and vice versa. So normally when you use an email system, the information is not stored on your personal computer. It goes to the server, which is basically just another computer stored somewhere else, and the records are stored there for everything that you do, all the emails that you send. So regardless of what you do with your computer, this information is on their servers, usually backed up multiple times. So she actually created a private server system so that where the information was being stored for her emails was in the basement of one of her properties, and it was not done in compliance with how classified information should be handled. When the news first broke of her having this sort of proprietary personal system and everyone thought it was fairly ridiculous, she came out and repeatedly said that this was not used for classified information. No classified information was sent or received on this system, and she said that she turned over all the work-related emails that were on this system. And so that was her excuse for why it was okay. Now, when the FBI did their investigation, we obviously know the result of that is that they recommended no charges, which is ridiculous, and I'll get into that in a second. But the interesting thing, and sort of why it's so ridiculous that they recommended no charges to the Justice Department, is that in the course of their investigation, they found that there indeed was, and Comey admitted this, FBI Director James Comey said this in the press conference, there was classified information sent and received on her private unsecured email server. It was, some of them at least, were marked classified at the time they were sent, because that was one of her excuses, was that she sent some of this information, but then going back, people said, oh yeah, this is classified, but it hadn't been marked classified at the time. The FBI came out and said there was information sent that was marked classified at the time it was sent or received on this private server. There was information all the way from several top secret emails down to what's considered confidential or up to classified, which is still protected confidential information, so it's still subject to a lot of the restrictions, so it's still wrong and illegal to do this. He said that she did not turn over all work-related emails and that some were irrecoverable because of the deleted process. We also know that in the process of her deleting some of them, her lawyers and possibly other aides and things had access to this information. They were told that they did not read the emails, that they were just looking at header information, but the bottom line is that people who did not have security clearance to see this information had access to it, which is again illegal. One of the things that they said was that there was no evidence of intent to purposefully break any of these rules, even though there was an email that came out where she told one of her workers, they said, we can't send this, it's classified. She said in this email, remove the headings and send it non-classified. That means remove the stuff that says it's classified and send it non-classified. And they're saying that they didn't actually do that with those emails, but the fact that she tells them to do it is clear sign of intent for anyone who's using their brain. So what we have here is a situation where, and also, before I forget this, there are multiple felonies that you can get with regard to mishandling classified information. If you have intent, if you purposefully mishandle classified information, that's obviously a very, bad offense, very high level offense, but there is felonies and people have been tried and convicted of this before where it is a crime and a felony, not just a misdemeanor, to handle classified information in a grossly negligent manner. And the FBI came out and said that she was extremely careless in her handling of this classified information. And if you look in the law dictionaries, under grossly negligent, the definition of grossly negligent is being extremely careless. So it's very interesting to see the FBI director come out, outline all the ways in which she actually did indeed break these laws, and then he says that no reasonable prosecutor would bring charges in this situation. And that's again interesting because not only could a reasonable prosecutor would not be able to not bring charges given this evidence, they've actually done so in the past. This current Justice Department has prosecuted people for very similar and much more minor offenses, just normal regular servicemen who don't have the political aristocracy of the Clinton name have been nailed to the wall for much less offenses than this. So that's sort of the situation that we're looking at now. And another interesting thing that came out during the congressional hearings or the congressional questioning of James Comey after they came out and recommended no charges was that he said that she was not placed under oath during her interview with the FBI, her questioning, and the questioning was not recorded or documented in any way. So at that point, it's fairly easy to see that this was something that they obviously knew ahead of time they were not going to recommend charges against her. But for those of you who don't know, I keep saying recommend charges because the FBI isn't the institution that actually files charges. That would be the Justice Department. They just gather evidence and make a recommendation. So there was always that. That's why I'd said in my previous videos that I never thought that she would actually be indicted or convicted because the Loretta Lynch and Obama Justice Department would have to be the one to say, okay, we're going to press charges, we're going to take this basically to trial. But I did think that the FBI would have enough integrity to recommend that the charges be filed given the evidence. And they outlined all the evidence that I knew was there. And when you're listening to this press conference with James Comey, it sounds like they're going to nail her to the wall because they outline all the ways in which she did indeed break the law and everything she said was a lie. And then they say, well, we're going to recommend no charges. So fairly ridiculous situation. But one interesting thing that came out, like I was going to mention in the congressional questioning of James Comey, was that so they're saying she did not lie to the FBI at any point, but she had said in other under oath situations that she did not send any classified information on the server, that, all those things that I mentioned before. She did say that under oath before, and James Comey said, well, we can't investigate those situations without a congressional referral. And they need a referral from Congress because that was not an FBI interrogation or anything like that. It was some sort of political hearing, but it was under oath. So then the congressman that is questioning James Comey at the time says, you'll get one within a few hours. So there's a very high likelihood, hopefully, that there will be an investigation. It won't be for necessarily the actual act of mishandling the classified information, but it could be for perjury for how she lied about it while under oath. Another interesting thing is because it's not like she went to trial and beat the charges, they just didn't actually go to trial, and there's no statute of limitations or anything that will have expired by the time the next administration takes over. So if Hillary Clinton does not win and Trump appoints a new Attorney General, they very well could pursue those same charges of mishandling classified information. Whatever new Justice Department, new Attorney General could still indict her on those exact same charges because she didn't beat them. She wasn't ever actually facing the charges in court. So hopefully for those of you who haven't really been following the situation too closely, lets you know exactly what's been going on in this situation and exactly how ludicrous it really is. And that's why people are saying that there's no rule of law. Carl Denninger says that the country died basically on that day because rule of law is completely dead when you can have someone come out and say, here is perfect evidence that they broke the law, admit that the evidence is there, and say basically because of who they are, they're not going to get indicted or charged with this crime. So it's a very severe situation. Really doesn't bode well for the future of rule of law in this country, if you even had any illusions about what that was like as it is, which I really didn't. So I'm sad to say that I'm not completely surprised by this. I am surprised. I'm not surprised that she escaped justice. I am surprised and saddened that the FBI didn't have a backbone here, and this is mostly probably related specifically to James Comey. It's hard to tell, but he was not, this is not some sort of lifelong FBI agent, law enforcement person. He was a lawyer, several political appointments, and he'd only been the head of the FBI director since around 2012, I believe. So only for the past few years, and he was an appointee of his administration. So there you have it, guys. If you had any further questions about this, let me know. I'll let you know what I know, which is not everything, but just trying to put this all into a timeline for you guys so you can see what's been going on, see why it's so ridiculous. But keep watching, check rulthewasteland.com. I'll talk to you guys later.